Hello, everybody. Scott Golden, Golden Opportunities Coaching here, and we are going to talk today about signs of abusive parenting and whether you might have had abusive parents. I have a client who is dealing with the reality of coming to terms with the fact that he, in fact, did deal with abuse in childhood that was non-physical, and so he asked me to make an audio about this issue so that he didn't feel alone with what he's going through. You know, there's research that says nearly 1 in 3 people have dealt with some form of abuse from their parents in some form or another. And then obviously there are folks who deal with extreme abuse where it's daily or weekly or sometimes multiple times a day. There are other folks who deal with just continued abuse of a mental, emotional, physical, sexual nature. That's really uncomfortable, obviously, for lots of people. But needless to say, there are some signs that one can look at and say that if these signs hold true more than 50% of the time, chances are you've been in an abusive situation. So, as someone who's survived severe traumatic child abuse and neglect, I can say dealing with this as an issue can be extremely difficult, and so I would encourage you, talk with a counselor, talk with a coach, talk with a pastor, find someone to talk to if you think that you're dealing with this for the first time. Dealing with it alone can actually cause more trauma and can actually cause a change in your brain chemistry and a whole bunch of other things. So don't walk this road alone if you don't have to. Some people can. Some people are really monstrally strong and they can do it. Doesn't mean they should, but some people can. Regardless of where you are in your recovery journey, remember a couple of things. Remember that you are strong. Remember that you are capable. Remember that you are worthy of love. And remember, above all else, that you are worthy to be your own person. Because one of the things that abusive parents do is they make us believe that we have no value and that we have no worth as a person. And so coming to the realization that we do deserve to have our own thoughts, our own feelings, our own opinions can be super important, especially during the early stages of the recovery process. So the first thing we want to talk about is control. Now, control can take many forms. Control can be who your friends are, who you talk to, who you don't talk to, how you speak, what you say, what you wear, where you go, the people with whom you associate for educational purposes, what you're allowed to watch on TV, what you're allowed to listen to on the radio, what you're allowed to do with your free time, the people you're allowed to spend time with in your free time. All of these things are control mechanisms. Now, obviously, healthy parents have to control some of these things too. But controlling parents, manipulative and abusive parents, control these things and many more without reason. It's just because I said so. It's because I know better than you. It's because you don't know what you're doing. It's because you're stupid. And usually, along with the control, linked with the control comes insults. So, it's you will do this because I said so, you such and such and so and so. It's always, I don't care what you think, I don't care what you feel, you're going to do this because I'm in control and you're not. There's a domineering aspect to it. There's a manipulative nature to it. It's almost as if the parent is getting some sort of power from controlling and manipulating the situation in the child's life. Now, what's weird is there's a veiled caring that comes with this in a lot of cases. I'm doing this for your own good is something that abusive parents will commonly say. Or I'm doing this so you don't end up like me. Or I'm doing this so you don't end up going to jail. Or I'm doing this so... And what it does is it makes it so that the victim of the abuse does not even begin to understand how to make their own decisions. It stunts the emotional growth of the young person. And then what happens when we transfer into young adulthood, be that at 17, 18, or in our early 20s, we suddenly realize, wait a second, we don't know how to make any good decisions here because we were never encouraged to do so. Oftentimes that control will continue once you leave the house, second guessing the decisions you do choose to make. Are you sure you want to eat that for dinner? Are you sure you want to spend that much a month for rent? You can't possibly want to date this person. All of these things, signs of control. Secondarily, no boundaries whatsoever. So an abusive parent does not learn healthy boundaries. They will ask the awkward questions. I've heard of abusive parents saying, "Are you sure this is the right sexual partner for you?" Which is a really awkward question. Are you sure you want to go into that field of study in college? You know there's no money there, right? Or they'll say something like, "I don't think this is a good friend, and here's why. I don't think this and that, and here's why." And a lot of it is opinion put forward as fact, and then if you question them, there's insults resulting. So let's just look at that as a pattern for a minute. An opinion put forward as fact, and then it's kind of questioning your ability to make decisions, and then if you stand up for yourself, there's an insult at the end. There's no good in that, right? There's no positive reinforcement in that whatsoever. And then we move on to thing number 3, which is the act of fault finding. The abusive parent is always going to try to perfect their offspring, perfect their child, make that child their version of what a perfect person is in some form or fashion. And so, let's say 80+% of conversations is going to start with, "You shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, you can't do this, you won't do that, it's dumb to do this, it's foolish to do that, and you're wrong to do this, and you're wrong to do that, and here's why," and there's never any praise. So automatically what begins to happen in the brain of someone who goes through this, especially during the formative years of 7 to 12, is we actually start to believe we cannot do anything right. And so this leads to social isolation, because if our own parents think that we are incapable of functioning, then why would anybody want to be our friend? Why would anyone want to date us? Why would a teacher think we're smart? Why would a principal think we're good? Why would, and I've actually heard this, especially for people that struggle with issues of faith, why would a loving God or goddess want anything to do with us when who created us thinks we're like the worst things that's ever been, created? And so that creates issues of faith and issues of religion and existential questions regarding, what is my purpose in life? Do I have a purpose? It can lead to the gateway of substance abuse just not to feel negative. It can lead to promiscuity just to feel loved. There's a whole bunch of things that abuse from parents can lead to, and it usually comes from the fault-finding perspective of, I need to find somebody on the planet that doesn't find fault with me, and I'm willing to trade or barter to get there from here. So another common thing, and probably the most frustrating for an abuse victim and I'm focusing mainly on, just as an aside, I'm focusing mainly on mental and emotional abuse in this audio, because I think physical, obviously getting hit, beat, punched, burned, etc. and so forth, those are pretty obvious, right? Like, we know what that looks like, we know what that feels like, we know what sexual exploitation is, we know what that looks like, know what that feels like. But the mental and emotional piece, I think, is a lot grayer, a lot more murky. And so, I got 3 more here. So, no new viewpoints. No matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter how you say it, no matter how you present your argument, your parent will not change their viewpoint. You can come to them with facts. You can print off a Wikipedia page. You can come to them with 5 witnesses. You can, do a thesis level research, and they're not going to change their viewpoint. And that's so frustrating, because then you think, why do I even bother with you, right? And the other thing, too, is, and that becomes part of the abuse cycle. And I'm going to say something that many people are going to find controversial. If you have an abusive parent, you are not responsible to stay in relationship with them. Now, I know society teaches differently. I know society teaches the concept, and many world religions teach the concept of honor, thy mother and thy father, right? It's in the 10 Commandments, it's in various other sacred texts. But here's the thing. What happens when a parent is acting dishonorably? what happens when a parent is either mentally ill or psychopathic or manipulative or whatever, choosing to be cold, whatever it is? Do we really have to honor that person? And in my experience from a mental health standpoint, an emotional health standpoint, and just coaching people to live their best life, the answer is no. Not during the healing process anyway. Now, if you decide afterwards that it's a good idea to go back and have a relationship with them, I have had clients over the years, having worked with over 10,000 people in 40 different countries. I've had clients that have come to a place in their personal healing where they're able to do the following. They're able to say, you know what, I'm not going to have a full-on relationship with you because I know you're bad for me, but I can view you as a charity case, and I can go visit you, and I can call you and make sure you're okay, and I can check in on you like I would another human being, and then disconnect from you completely and realize that I'm doing this because you're a human, not because you're my parent, and compartmentalize, hey, I would want someone to check on me even if I acted as dark as you do. I will charitably give to you my time for a limited amount of time. I'm not going to look to you for approval. I'm not going to look to you for acceptance. But I am going to treat you like a worthy human being, worthy of love. And some people in recovery find that that helps to scratch the itch of, um, you know, kind of that parental alienation piece. I know for myself in my own personal journey, when I broke away from both of my parents, I broke away from my father. It'll probably be what, that was 2001 maybe. So nearly 20 years ago, he passed away. About 10 years ago, I broke away from my mother in 2010, and she passed away in 15. I know that when I broke away, I never looked back. But I never looked back because of some extenuating circumstances. There were physical threats made on my life and lives of loved ones that I couldn't recompense. I saw that going back into a relationship with either of my parents was going to put people in danger, and so I chose not to continue that relationship for the reason of protecting others as well as myself. Now, here's the weird part of that. I still did send positive thoughts, positive energy, and positive affirmations to them because I wanted them to have the best life they were capable of having through their various mental illnesses. I didn't harbor that ill will and hatred that I once had, but I also knew the boundary of not being able to have a relationship with them. And so you may deal with something similar in your own life if you've come from an abuse background. Finding the way to relate to our physical creators, and in those cases, if a person is abusive, I refuse to call them a parent. I call them a physical creator, or I call them a donor, just because parenthood is a very sacred thing, and it is something that is a gift from a higher power in my belief, and that not everyone who is capable of the biology of creating children deserves the term parent. So another thing is manipulation. Many times parents who are abusive are manipulative. They will control situations based on making you think a certain way. Mind control and mind manipulation, a huge part of what drives them. Personally, I was raised in a mind manipulation subsect cult, so that doesn't help. Perhaps I'll do an audio just on cults one day if anybody's interested in that. But suffice to say that manipulation is a huge aspect in abuse, and a lot of times you don't even realize you're being manipulated until you're away from it for some months to a year. I would say that the average person has to be away completely from any contact from an abuser for at least 3 to 6 months before they begin the healing process. That first 3 months, you're just trying to find yourself. You're just trying to find your grounding, and it's during months 4, 5, 6, and beyond where the healing begins. The last one is so simple, but it's the silent treatment after disagreements. Ice you out, not communicate with you, using silence as a punishment strategy. That's another sign of abusers. It's a huge sign, as a matter of fact. Basically, the idea is you're not even worthy of me talking to unless you conduct yourself in a certain way. Regardless, this is Scott Golden Opportunities Coaching. Hope this audio has been helpful to you. Please comment below if you're struggling with dealing with abuse. And if you would like to set up a private session, please feel free to contact me here on YouTube with a DM, or on Twitter at PO Perception, P as in Paul, O as in Oreo Perception. And I'll get back to you within 24 hours. We still are doing the social reconnection special. If you are a new client, then you get the $50 per session level rate for the duration of our working relationship. I encourage you to keep your feet on the ground, your mind in the moment. Until next time, everybody.